You can definitely judge a person by their favorite characters when they were kids. A lot of the times, the reason the person may like that character is because they see a bit of themselves in the character. It was always a fun pastime with my friends to compare and contrast which characters were great and which characters were absolute trash. And let me tell you, Nickelodeon had a plethora of characters to choose from. I know I beat Nickelodeon up in my last video, but it's because it was so instrumental in my childhood and I loved it so much. So, to get into the good graces of the Nickelodeon gods again, and because I adore being roasted just for funsies, here's my list of the top 6 greatest Nickelodeon characters. Here we go.
Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
Not just cartoons. We're Nicktoons. Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
Not just cartoons. We're Nicktoons.
Number 6, SpongeBob SquarePants. So, I may or may not have implied that SpongeBob SquarePants was responsible for the downfall of Nickelodeon, but no one can deny that SpongeBob was a game changer in animation history. Aside from the fact that SpongeBob is probably one of the most recognizable Nickelodeon characters, and the Nickelodeon character whose face is most likely to be found on any item ever sold on a beach boardwalk, the character of SpongeBob is an undeniably good friend, and he always finds himself in a pickle because he wants to make the lives of the people around him better, even if he does this in the most unconventional ways. I won't deny the fact that 1999 SpongeBob and 2017 SpongeBob are very different, and the character has seemed to have lost a bit of his luster, but he is still a classic. I think the best thing about SpongeBob is that he's optimistic about everyone and is passionate about the life he lives, even if it's just flipping burgers at a restaurant. Not to mention that he has one of the most iconic and infectious laughs of any character that I know. Number 5. Susie Carmichael. Susie is often forgotten when anyone brings up Rugrats, but she was definitely my favorite of all the babies. Yeah, surprise, surprise. One of the main reasons being that she was a positive black female character that was multifaceted, and to feed us Bobbi, that meant a whole lot. I even dressed up as her during my senior year of high school. Okay, not just like for fun, it was character day during Spirit Week. Please get off my back. Anyways, Susie was often seen as the responsible and nice one in comparison to the terror known as Angelica Pickles. And the babies always looked up to her, and she was always supported them in all of their endeavors in figuring out their new life. I appreciate the fact that they gave us a look into Susie's family dynamic, and we learned that she is the youngest of her family with 3 older siblings, and both of her parents were present with very well-paying jobs. They definitely were inspired by The Cosby Show, but it still worked in making Susie a very personable character. Not to mention the fact that she seemed to speak fluent French and is a talented singer. So what her repped her bars tasted like crap. You're still a favorite in my book.
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
This is the first set of characters from the same show on the list. Tommy Pickles was the equivalent of SpongeBob in the 90s, but for completely different reasons. Tommy was a clear representation of how we were when we were kids, just trying to figure out this new world that we've been brought into. That was the best part about him. Tommy answered all the questions along with the other babies I had as a young child in his many adventures. Everyone could relate to him because we all wondered about what the toilet was, or whether our toys moved when we weren't watching, or why we have to share our toys with the new baby our parents brought home, and how do we send him back. The hard-hitting questions, you know? Tommy was brave and fearless, and after a long day of adventures, he always had time to get a juice, snuggle up with his bear, and go nap-nap.
I don't know! I mean, seriously, what's with you people? I'm blind!
Okay, let's just get the basics out of the way. Toph's a badass. Undoubtedly, Toph was one of the best benders, and not in a, oh, she's good for being a blind girl. No, she was a genuinely good bender. I mean, she was in charge of teaching Aang the ways of earthbending. She also had an amazing sense of humor, and she was very different from all the other females on the show, because some of them were more emotionally heavier than others. She was funny, sarcastic, and she brought a new energy to the main group of Sokka, Katara, and Aang. I love that her being blind wasn't a hindrance to her character, but it also wasn't ignored. It was just a part of her. Like, there were times where it was served as a plot point, but she was nowhere near a damsel in distress.
Move it, football head!
Hey, Arnold!
Oh, Arnold. Give me a moment, because this one hits me right in the heart. You know, I'm woman enough to admit that Arnold Shortman, yeah, that's his last name, was the first love of my life. Aside from the fact that I was very, very close to replicating the shrine that Helga had for him, I enjoyed that Arnold was a chill character, an archetype usually reserved for the secondary characters in most animated TV shows. By Arnold not being an over the top, zany, loud main character that we usually see in animated programming, it allowed the viewers to explore the other characters on the show more effectively. Arnold was the voice of reason, and he always found himself trying to figure out what the best thing for the neighborhood was. He wasn't a character that was constantly in crisis, he wasn't constantly trying to get into unrelatable adventures, he was just a kid. You may be thinking, well, most of these characters on this list are kids. And that's very true, but Arnold was so simple in design, minus the very unique head shape and character, that you knew a kid like him or you saw yourself in him. So shout out to you, football head. Okay, we made it. I know you're itching to find out who the number one is, but I will reveal that after this montage of characters that will satisfy the superfans who are ready to hop into the comments section and complain that their favorite obscure character is not on this list. I mean, here's the honorable mentions.
Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
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 Not just cartoons.
And the number one on my list of the top 6 greatest Nickelodeon characters is
Helga. This mask will help reduce wrinkles and signs of aging.
We don't have wrinkles! Ugh! We don't have signs of aging! We're 9 years old!
Helga G. Pataki. LOL, bet you didn't guess this. Actually, you probably did because I kind of alluded to it earlier, but that is neither here nor there. A lot of people see Helga as a very one-note character. A stone-cold bitch who is obsessed with Arnold and has a very hard time expressing her real feelings. And yeah, on the surface, that was her character, but she was much more complex than people give her credit for. Let's dissect her a little bit. Firstly, she wasn't like the other girls in Hillwood. And I don't mean that in a manic pixie dream girl type of way. I mean she genuinely was one of the only tomboys in the neighborhood. So she often found herself trying to fit in with the other girls. And eventually, she found a friend in Phoebe. Her tough as nails personality made it seem like it didn't faze her that she didn't fit in with the other girls, but it did. And that insecurity was born from her home life. She was constantly had to stand in the light of her older sister Olga, who was the perfect and painfully obvious favorite of her parents. She was completely neglected by her father, who we can all assume wanted her to be a boy because he had his perfect daughter in Olga. Her mother was an alcoholic. There's plenty of evidence to back up this fact, and Nickelodeon wasn't very shy about showing it. Helga was alone, but she was resilient. She found a home with the other kids of Hillwood, and her love of Arnold, while it was a little much at times, it makes sense. Arnold was the first person to see Helga as a person and to do something nice for her. So Helga was complex, and yet she still has the relatability of a popular character. She wasn't so tragic to where it was sad to watch her, but she had depth to her that when her tragedies were shown, you empathized with her. Hats off to you, Helga Pataki, and thanks for representing all the girls who don't know how to properly express their feelings, like